All right, welcome everyone. I am here with a special guest, Andrea, and I can't wait for Andrea to share her story because one, if you knew Andrea, 12 weeks ago, or a little bit more over 12 weeks ago, when we first met, this is a different Andrea sitting here today, and she's smiling a lot more than she was on that first call. And so I'm super excited for her to share her journey. So please welcome her. Andrea, why don't we start off by letting everybody know a little bit about yourself? Who is Andrea?
Well, my name's Andrea, and I am 56 years old, and I live in Glencoe, and I have two adult children. One still lives with me, and an 18-year-old special needs boy that everybody in town knows. His name is Trent. Um, we just got a puppy. We have two cats. I'm a foot care nurse, and I also sell Epicure, and lately been running my feet off going to Barrie looking after my aging parents. So it's Andrea's kind of chaos.
Yeah, yeah. Well, different chaos now than where
Yes.
she was. So I hope that we can paint that picture in a little bit. But tell the audience like where you were at when we first connected, like what you were feeling, like why did you need help?
Oh gosh, I remember that first phone call and all I did was cry. I went through like half a box of Kleenexes and I yeah, I was a mess. Yeah, I was in a really down place. I didn't feel good about myself and I certainly lacked confidence and I just felt so stuck because what I was trying to do wasn't working and I felt like I was banging my head against the wall and yeah, I was stuck.
Yeah, because you had spent years trying different things and feeling like they worked for a little bit and then they didn't work.
Right. And
Yeah.
it was willpower base. It was all willpower. And then of course I would be really good for, a week or two. And then something would happen. And then I like dive into comfort foods and console myself with my favorite comfort foods and not do the things I wanted to do and then beat myself up about it. And yeah, so it was just that negative spiral.
Yeah, so what I want to do is I want to point like out one what your goals were. Two, I want to let the audience know that one, your journey wasn't a smooth journey because we were dealing with pain, chronic pain, and injuries too. So when we first connected, you said I need to drink a lot of water because I believe you were drinking a couple thermoses of coffee to give you your energy. You're just like, I just need it to get energy. You're having a hard time getting up in the morning and getting moving out of the bed. One, because of pain. Two, because your mood and your energy just wasn't there. So you're relying on coffee. You weren't starting your eating until later in the day because you said, I just not a breakfast eater. I don't like breakfast food. But we weren't necessarily making the connection between that and your eating later at night. Your goal was to move more. You definitely wanted more energy because even despite having all the coffee or whatever, it just wasn't working. And so those were the kind of the goals that you started with. I think we landed on more than that by the time we finished. But that's where you started. Now, talk to the audience about like because a lot of women, for example, like if they're going through an injury, like, hey, I just had knee replacement or hip replacement, or hey, there's something going on with my foot or whatever, they just like done. They don't do anything else, right? And
Yeah.
for you, you had chronic injuries. So
Yeah.
talk about that and talk about movement.
Um, yeah, I really felt very stuck and in a negative spiral because I kept hurting my back. I had a back injury, my like a significant back injury 8 years ago. And um, anytime I tried to do anything extra, like um, the first injury after we connected was in May, and I went to a wedding. I was using a walker to walk around the house when I was determined to go to this wedding. And driving back, I hurt myself just by sitting in the car. And that certainly has affected my mood a lot. Every time I try to do a little bit more than baseline, I would hurt myself. Carrying the laundry, I'd hurt myself. Going up the stairs, going to the bathroom at night, I'd end up having to use the walker, and for weeks on at a time, where I couldn't stand on one leg or the other leg. So the thought of getting on a treadmill was absolutely impossible. I avoided going down the stairs if I had to go. is something I had to talk myself into. And the treadmill was downstairs, so there was no way I was going to do that extra. If I was able to do the laundry, I was not going to be on the treadmill. So that was not priority. I wanted to move, I wanted to walk, but I was scared to walk outside in case I hurt myself. If the ground was uneven, that's enough to put my back out. So I just, the wanted to was there, but the how to wasn't.
Yeah, and you had flare-ups throughout our
It,
coaching together where it was like, hey, when you submit your food journal, you'd be like, this is all I ate because it's just like I can't get up to go to the kitchen right now and do anything, and there's no one home to kind of to help me.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
very discouraging.
Yeah, and we did get to a point where you said, "Hey, we talked about going outside for a walk because you got to a point where, hey, it was the pain eased up. You were ready to kind of move a little bit. We talked about, range of motion and all that stuff. And so you were like, oh, but I'm just really scared when I'm by myself. I really need someone to go with me. And then that's kind of when we had the conversation about the treadmill is can we go slow and always hold on to one arm hanging on until we kind of get used to it or what have you. And it took you a little bit and you would do well for some periods of time. And then, there would be a flare up. So then we kind of step back. And so you and I worked on how to toggle between that. Whereas I think before you would get really discouraged and then I'm done with
Yeah,
everything. We still kept the other pieces in place there. And you just
yeah,
even said, hey, before my call is like, is my hair okay? I just got off the treadmill. And that was like, wow, like
yeah.
over 12 weeks ago, that wasn't something that would have even came out of your mouth.
No, absolutely not. I would be probably just rolling out of bed and popping some Advil, which I must admit that I haven't taken any Advil or Tylenol or anything stronger than that in 2 months.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, pretty incredible because I was pretty much living on Advil and Tylenol.
And caffeine.
Well, and caffeine too.
Yeah, yeah, that is really incredible. And I love that you highlight that for people too, because again, when I'm having conversations with women and they're saying, "Oh, I'm just coming off an injury," and I say, "Well, how about your nutrition?" And it's crickets because it's like, "No, I'm injured, so I can't do anything." And for
Yeah,
you, you're a living testament to say, "I'm on my lowest weight ever, the lowest weight that I've ever been in over
crazy.
10 years ago." 10 years ago, you said, "Hey, that's probably where I was around this weight." And you've struggled for so many years to kind of lose the weight, and here you are at your lowest weight in 10 years, and it didn't come with having to exercise a lot, and it came with still you managing pain throughout the
Yeah,
process.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But there were still weeks when I was using the walker in the house, and then I wouldn't go outside. I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't go into town. I wouldn't drive. I wouldn't. I was isolating myself until I got able to walk without help, and then I would go into town. So yeah, people just didn't see me when I was hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, well, I guess tell those that are listening, like, what did you learn about nutrition? Because you said, hey, I've been trying to lose this weight for a really long time and I've been doing all of these things. So what did you learn about what you maybe were doing wrong or not optimizing?
Well, for one thing, I'm not a breakfast eater. I hate cereal, absolutely hate cereal. And I figured a scrambled egg or two what I if when I did have breakfast, which was very, very seldom. I lived on coffee. Usually the first thing I put in my mouth was around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. But if it was that, I'd have a scrambled egg, which was 2 eggs scrambled, and then that I would consider protein. Or I'd have like a quarter cup of peanut butter in my smoothie in the morning, thinking that that was my protein. I had my proteins and my fats completely upside down. I was kind of annoyed. Well, not just kind of annoyed. I was very annoyed with it. Canada's food guide. Cindy heard about it a lot because I didn't understand that protein wasn't cashews and peanuts and stuff in the evening. And I'm thinking that I'm doing myself something healthy and instead of eating chips, which is my comfort food, I was eating healthy. I was eating nuts. Um, yeah, and that was wrong. Yeah. So peanut butter is not a protein. A whole egg is not a protein. What else did I have messed up? I don't know, but I remember being really annoyed finding that out. So finding out about the number of protein versus uh, carbs and fats really, it was like mind blowing to me because I had it all upside down and backwards. I was having salad. I ate salad quite often, but I'd have a whole tomato in my salad and half an avocado. Well, that's not vegetables. So
Mhm.
that made me mad. So just learning about what's a carb, what's a fat, what's a vegetable, it
Yeah.
was big.
Yeah, I love that you highlighted that. And then let's go into nighttime eating because you had a ritual where your best friend lives away. You guys video record and you either watch a show or you crochet together. You had this like awesome kind of connection that you guys do, but it also involves snacking as
Yeah.
well. And
Yes.
as we started coaching together, we started working through, are you hungry or is this emotional eating or is this a habit? And I think that that was a big eye opener for you too, is like you labeled it as hunger, but
Yeah.
there were other things going on. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, my bestie lives out in PEI and we would watch a Netflix show or something and we would FaceTime. And we started doing that during COVID. And because she's so far away, I miss her so much. This is a way of connecting. And so usually around 9:30, 10 o'clock, the snackies start and she'll go and get herself some popcorn or something. And then I would go and grab my bag of chips and just eat straight out of the bag until the bag was gone. I never poured it into a bowl. I just ate and we visited and chatted. And I always felt like I was hungry then. And I honestly felt I was hungry. I didn't put it to emotional eating whatsoever. I mean, I would tell her I had an awful day or, my pain is terrible today. I spent the whole day in the chair or whatever, but I never connected it to emotional eating or just the mindfulness piece was huge. Yeah, that was probably the hardest thing was to identify, am I hungry? Am I lonely? Am I upset? Um, yeah,
But you
yeah,
got to a point too where you were like, let's say you and your husband had a disagreement, for example, and you're like, this was totally emotional eating. You got
yeah.
to a point where it was like, I didn't have to ask you. You got to a point where you were like, I knew that this was emotional eating and this is why it happened.
Yeah.
And that brought you such clarity, right? It's like, I get it. I get why I'm doing it. Whereas before it was like, why am I not losing weight? It's I'm hungry. And it's like we weren't listing it in the proper kind of category per se.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the strange thing is once I realized, oh crap, I'm eating the chips, and that's because we had an argument earlier that I didn't want the chips anymore.
Mhm.
I could roll them up and put the chip clip that I never ever used on the bag and put it in the cupboard, and it stopped. It was crazy.
Yeah.
If anybody knows me, they know that Andrea loves chips. Like there's always a stash in the spot where people know about, and there's also a stash where people don't know about. There's always chips around, and I don't eat them very often anymore. And I also don't drink coffee very much either, which was massive to me because I could not imagine starting the day without a cup of coffee in my hand. I just, it never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's like routine for you, right? You're leaning towards water more often. Now, a lot of women think like, okay, I don't eat at nighttime, so why am I not losing weight? And I can't, I stop eating after 7, but you still ate at night.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
start working through emotional habit and hunger, you were quick to identify what hunger is, and you were
mm,
still eating late at night. One, you stay up pretty late, and so you would have a snack. Sometimes it'd be 8, sometimes it would be 9, or what have you. And here we are still at our lowest weight. And I love pointing that out to women because they think that that's the biggest needle mover is not to eat past. But you also notice that what you eat makes a difference in terms of how you feel about yourself, but also in terms of your sleep. So can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, sure. Yeah, I have low blood sugar, so I do need to have something to eat at night, especially if I'm still awake at 9:30 or 10:30 or 11:30. Back then, 3 months ago, my average bedtime was between 2 and 4 in the morning. Like I didn't sleep well, so it just threw the morning off. Quite often, I would go back to bed after I got Trent up for the bus. I go back to bed and sleep till noon, especially if my pain level was high. I haven't done that in months. Um, but I would also still have a snack at night. It's not always chips. I mean, it's hardly ever chips now, but it is always a protein.
Mm.
It's not cheese, because cheese isn't a protein, friends. Cheese is fat. That's another thing that upset me. Just letting you know that cheese is a fat. And I would have a giant piece of cheese for bed, thinking that I was having a protein because that's what we were told, but it's not, friends. It's not. So now I have about 3/4 of a cup of Greek yogurt, and if I'm feeling like I need a carb or something, I'll throw some Vector cereal in there. Vector is not high in protein. It's a trick. It's a trick.
I
Don't
love
believe
it.
the advertising. It's a trick.
But you won because you learned how to read the label and
That's right.
you understood that that wasn't right. It wasn't like, hey, Cindy says it's like you read the label, you understood how to do it, and you could see, oh, per gram, it's actually not high in protein. But we made it high in protein by adding it to your Greek yogurt, for example, because you did like the crunch there. That was something you missed from the chips was the crunch.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Now, the first couple of weeks when we coached together, you went camping.
Yes.
Sometimes women think, oh, I can't do something like this because I got this coming up or this going on. But you
Right.
did it while camping. So can you
I
talk
did
about
it.
that?
Yes, I did it while camping, and I remember being really nervous about that because there's just things that happen when you camp. There's always alcohol around. There's always chips, and I mean, the kids want to eat hot dogs and hamburgers, and it's just yeah. And I know that he's a big breakfast guy. He likes to cook bacon and sausage and eggs and all the things in the morning. And in my husband's family, I mean, back in my previous life when I was single, I was not a big person. I didn't eat a lot of food. But when I married into my husband's family, if your plate wasn't loaded, then something's wrong. What's wrong? Why aren't you eating? How come you're not finishing your food? So I gradually started to become a really big eater over the years. And so when we were camping and he would make an omelet or fry up 3 eggs for me or whatever, I always felt guilty. Like if I didn't eat it, he was going to be mad at me. He wasn't, so I got over that. But it was the all the chips and all of the extra stuff around because there's when we go camping, there's all their families there. Like yeah, I was really nervous about that and the alcohol and just how am I going to navigate this? I don't have the willpower to stay away from all of it. The kids want it and they're coming with us. And yeah, so it was a big deal.
But you did it. You
I did it.
packed some snacks for the first time on the road trip so that you weren't always relying on en route.
Right.
Right. And then you pack some snacks for the trip for camping. And then but you did eat with the family. You did eat some of the foods that they were eating. You just had different habits around those foods.
Oh, hang on a second. I, I don't know how to make, the school is calling me.
Mhm.
They're just going to have to wait. Yes. So it was, yeah, I did it. I didn't think that I was going to be successful, and I was. It was crazy because when I weighed myself before we left, I thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to gain all this weight back, which was only like 5 pounds at that point. But I lost, which was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. And I didn't drink coffee the whole time I was gone. Um, and then I realized that maybe I'm taking in my calories from the cream because I did try to drink coffee while I was gone. And I measured it out and I measured out my creamer by the tablespoon. And I'd look at my coffee and go, well, that doesn't look right. And then I just kept measuring and realized, oh my goodness, I'm using my entire day's fat count in 1 cup of coffee. And then when I took a sip, I thought, I don't even like this. And I dumped it. The kids were just floored. They couldn't believe it.
Well, I remember because you messaged me too, and you're like, "Can you believe I just dumped coffee? I didn't like it." And I was like, "You used to have so many, right?" And it was just like things started to change for you, right? Now, talk about mindset because mindset is a big component of us coaching together. I think it was the most unexpected part for you in terms of one, you said, "Hey, finding my voice." So, talk
Mhm.
about that unexpected part. What's the link between mindset and all of this for you?
Uh, Mindset was huge. Well, one, I was eating because it was time to eat, and sometimes it was a craving, and I didn't realize that it was a craving. I thought it was hunger. Um, Sitting and taking my time and making myself slow down because I serve everybody at the table. And if somebody needed salt, I'd get up and I'd go get it. Somebody needed milk, I'd go up and get it. Somebody needed ketchup. And they're all humans with legs that can go and get all that stuff for them. So when I made myself stay sitting down and counting this, because you told us to count the seconds between the next bite, I and making myself slow down and thinking about what I'm eating and thinking about the flavor and the crunch and the whatever it is, I enjoyed the food a lot more. I really did. And realizing and making the connection between eating and emotional eating or eating and loneliness or eating and because I'm actually hungry was huge.
Mhm. Yeah, that is huge. It's usually that, well, and I bet you out of all of those years that you've done all those diets, it wasn't something that you even crossed your mind
Never.
to include. But you also said, I'm a people pleaser. And you also said, I found my voice.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, well, for instance, at the table when somebody needed ketchup or somebody needed the salt or somebody needed something, I would just get up out of routine and go and get it. And because that's what you did to make people happy. That's what they needed. And I wasn't looking at it as they also can get up and get their own damn ketchup. I just did it. I and so sitting back and letting them, you need the salt, go and get it yourself. It's okay. And then finding my voice to be able to say that was big, was
Mhm.
really,
Yeah, or even finding your voice to say, like, with certain people, it's like, I actually don't want to eat that, or I don't like that, or it's like, no, I'm going to do this right now for
yeah,
me. And, and then not interfering with, like, I'm still a good mom, I'm still a good friend, I'm still a good wife, even
yeah,
though I say, just hold on a second, not right now.
yeah. And I think the hardest thing was that I would feel like I was hurting my husband's feelings because I wasn't eating what it is that he made. And and realizing that what he's making for me would be my entire day's at plus fat value. And I would eat it so that I wouldn't hurt his feelings. Um, and I found that when I said no, he didn't like it, but it was still okay. I'm
Mhm.
not going to eat this. And I'd say why. And then, like, he didn't understand it because I always ate it before. And what's wrong with you? But I'm okay in my own skin to be able to say, no, instead of me eating all of that, I'm going to have this. Thank you very much for making it for me, but this is enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that because oftentimes we think, okay, I can't do this because I got to wait until everybody's on board. I think I got to cut out sugar, so I got to wait until my husband's on board with cutting out sugar, for example. And then that time is like we're always waiting, we're always waiting, we're always waiting. Or it's like it's just easier just to give in than it is to find that voice. But then the trade-off is that we don't move closer to who we want to be. Because you said you feel really confident and comfortable in your skin.
I did say that. Yes, I say that.
You did say that. I love it. Yeah, and it's been a long time since you felt that way.
Yes, very, very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So think about the woman that's watching this that is like, I've been trying everything and nothing works, or it's like, it's not the right time, or it's like, I'm too scared to invest in myself in this way. What do you need to say to her who's watching this?
I would say love yourself enough and make the investment, even if it's just for the 3 months, because you're going to unlearn some habits. You're going to unlearn um, some things that Canada's food guide is not real. You should not follow that thing. And you'll understand more about your metabolism and and just like I'm living proof. I couldn't believe that I could lose 21 pounds and basically I didn't work out. I did not work out.
And you enjoyed all foods.
I pardon me.
You enjoyed all foods.
Uh,
You still had chips occasionally. You still had
yep,
popcorn occasionally. You
yep,
still, yeah.
yeah. I still got to have treats. I didn't feel like I was denying myself, and then I didn't beat myself up after. The days that I did have chips, it was okay. Yeah, no, it was a good day. I'm gonna have chips, and it's not gonna ruin my night. And
Yeah.
I feel guilty about it. Tomorrow's another day. Or I knew that I was going out to a girl's place and I knew that there was going to be treats and stuff there, so I planned accordingly. I made sure that I got my protein and my full amount of veggies in first thing in the morning. I mean, I never ever had sauteed spinach and egg whites before, and I don't mind them. They're pretty good.
Mhm.
And eating my meal on a bed of spinach. Like my daughter says, "Are you done eating the spinach? My goodness, I'm eating so much spinach." But these changes that I've made, I actually like them. I like them. And when I know that I'm going out, I make sure that I have my veggies in first thing in the morning, and then it's a little bit freer when I go somewhere. I can still have veggies and dip. I can still have crackers. I can still have cheese, but I really look at the cheese and I choose wisely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
still doing all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of like, hey, nutrition, you said I had to unlearn a lot of things in order to learn a lot of things. And because of that learning, it's like you looked at food completely different in a way that all those other diets never had you look at. Not only that, you looked at how you were eating. So the eating slow, the eating mindfully. Then we looked at why you were eating to make you more aware of those emotional connections, those habit connections, and the hunger connections. On the exercise side of things, it's like we did what we could do within the limits of our body, and our body experienced a lot of pain. And so we looked at that. And then in terms of mindset, is that we looked at, okay, well, reframing some of our thoughts, looking at saying things in a little different way,
Mhm.
learning to set our boundaries, learning to let go or ease up on the people pleasing side of things as well, and making the connection between our body, our thoughts, and our feelings as well. It was kind of all of that there. Yeah. And then we
Yeah.
added the natural path in too.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
She's
so,
helpful.
yeah, and that helped us kind of round out our coaching journey too. So, if before we go, if there was one piece of advice, you already said, hey, invest in yourself, you're worth it, love yourself. Is there any other piece of advice that you would leave for women? A woman who's just on the fence, who's just like, no, I'm going to do it on my own.
How long are you going to do it wrong before you make a change?
Whoa, mic drop.
Right? Sorry, 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 not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Now, I do want to say one thing is that on our last call, you said, I unfollowed you for a really long time. You maybe didn't think I was going to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up. You said,
Yeah.
I unfollowed you for a long time. And then you said, eventually I came back and I said, oh, I want to see what's going on. What made you unfollow?
You were you were bossy and you were telling me that I couldn't have cheese and you were telling me that I needed to drink water and water's gross and I'm just not going to listen to her anymore, and so I deleted you. And then a couple months went by and I was really not doing very well in my with my back and my pain and all of that. um I just got curious into, I wonder what Cindy's talking about today, and so I added myself back into the group. And after listening to you for a couple more months, then I got curious and thought, well, you know what? I'm going to talk to some of the friends that I know that have done this program to tell me what their thoughts are. You know, everybody says, "Oh, it's awesome, it's awesome," and then a couple months later, do they still think it's awesome?
Mhm.
Are they still doing the things, or are they just saying they're doing the things? And the ladies that I did reach out to, every single one of them said the same thing: you need to do this, invest in yourself, love yourself, you're worth it, you will not regret it, was what all of them said. And I didn't just ask one, I asked like four or five.
Mhm.
And they all said the same thing, which to me, and then of course I talked it over with my family, and they all said, go for it, try
Mhm.
it. What you got to lose? I mean, you might lose weight. You never know. She
Mhm.
might be onto something. That Cindy girl might be onto something.
Well, there you go. There you go. You went from unfollowing me for all the things that you ended up changing.
That's right. Sorry.
I know you said it to me and you were like, I'm so sorry, but I unfollowed you for a really long time.
Good.
And I was like, I thought that was in reflection. I thought like, oh, that's a really good thing to kind of say if I ever got a chance to interview you, because I think that sometimes what I say does hit the nail on the head for some people, but they're just not open to listening it, or they're like, no, that doesn't, because I'm doing this instead. I'm doing keto instead, and that's the whatever. So I think that that was important to highlight, because I think sometimes when something gets under your skin, it's a reflection of maybe what you're not doing, what you should be doing, or the questioning of your own kind of beliefs or approach, for example. Or sometimes it's
Yeah.
just the right fit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had no plans on telling you that I had followed you, and you got it out of me.
Like all things, I did. I want to thank you for sharing your story with other women. I think it always resonates and inspires other women as well when they can see themselves reflected back. And so thank you so much for being so open and honest.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Andrea.
Okay, bye.